Hello everybody and welcome to parksbros. It's Drew here. It's been just over 2 weeks since Six Flags Magic Mountain publicly filed their permits for their brand new Vekoma roller coaster for 2026. And I kid you not, within a day, they were already starting work up again around the old Golden Bear Amphitheater. So since it's now almost the end of January, I figured let's take a look and see what's going on with the site and see how much work has actually gotten done. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I might as well catch you up to speed. On January 6th of this year, Six Flags Magic Mountain publicly filed their permits to LA County for a Vekoma Thrill Glider coaster. Now, we're not entirely sure of what that means exactly, but we do know there was an old Vekoma concept that realistically was an inverted coaster, meaning you're hanging below the track, while also being seated in the motorbike position. So if you're a Southern California local and you've been to Knott's Berry Farm, imagine if Silver Bullet and Pony Express had a baby. Now I will say that is one of the few things that we don't exactly know for sure. That's just a guess. And other things we don't know exactly yet, of course, are the name and the color scheme as well as the overall theme. However, there have definitely been some hints towards it, at least if we go by the advertising on the construction walls around the project. So we can maybe assume that orange will be involved, blue maybe too, and maybe a steampunk vibe because there's a steampunk bird on the poster as well. But we do for a fact know this is a Vekoma manufactured roller coaster. And we know exactly where it's going and what the layout might be looking like, at least where the footers are going to be placed. It's going to be right above where the Golden Bear Theater used to be, which was right across from Bugs Bunny World and further down the main path to the right side past Full Throttle. Speaking of Full Throttle, we knew this ride would butt up against the station building as well as the main queue and come incredibly close to Gold Rusher, while still keeping that ride alive. It's also fairly close to Superman Escape from Krypton, which is currently standing but not operating. And while it technically goes over the old amphitheater, it won't actually be using any of the previous foundations put into the ground. That includes all of the concrete seats and steps that are in that theater, which currently are the only remnants of the theater as well. We know the station is going to be on the left-hand side, at least if you're looking toward the seats, and it's going to be fairly high up considering how many different rampways there are going to be, switching back and forth up the hillside. And something else we know is that this very wooded area where Logjammer used to be, as well as the monorail at some point, is no longer going to include a lot of those old growth trees in the park. Now, with all that said, I think it's time to finally get into what's going on with the project over the past couple of weeks. All this footage is thanks to my buddy Dylan from Theme Park Obsession, so make sure to go check him out and get him to 100,000 subscribers. This first batch of footage is coming from the first couple days after the permits were officially filed. You can see the first bits of trees coming down, and it's really just odd to see all of this change. I know it's been years since the Golden Bear Theater officially stood completely intact, but seeing all of this come down bit by bit, tree by tree, it's just insane. And honestly, I gotta commend Dylan here for showing off a lot of that tree growth, because I have a feeling that in the coming days and months, all of these trees are going to be gone, which is a real shame. However, it makes complete sense as they get in the way of the construction process completely, and for a lot of these trees to grow that tall, their roots are fairly deep, making it even more difficult for them to do any concrete work on this hillside. You can see the beginnings of roadways taking shape for the multiple excavators going up and down as they chop a lot of these trees away. Unfortunately, this has been a pretty consistent pattern at Six Flags Magic Mountain the past couple of years, with many trees going the wayside and less shade in the park. So hopefully they're able to regrow some of this or fill out some planters in other parts of the park as well. It does remind me a bit of Tatsu's construction back in 2005 and 2006, where it seemed like all of the trees on that side of the park were completely decimated. But now, just about 2 decades later, it's almost completely reforested and looks really pretty. So hopefully that's the same way it will go with this ride going forward, but it's probably going to be a little bit more bright and a little hotter in that part of the park going forward for the next couple of years. Something really crazy that taking out some of the first bits of trees reveals is that there's still log jammer footings, which, if you didn't know, was one of the 2 log flumes at the park at the time before Full Throttle opened. Which, interestingly enough, the main station building is still in the park today, which that building splits the main pathway from the ending turnaround on Full Throttle. But it's kind of wild to see with this project that there were so many different things hidden in the woods back there that are finally being torn out, and this includes track and supports from the old monorail, which that hasn't been operating at the park in over 2 or 3 decades. But it was kind of wild to see those come down first about over a year ago now, and now to potentially see some of the last bits of Logjammer is pretty crazy if you ask me. There's also a pretty interesting view of Superman Escape from Krypton Station. Usually you can't see that side at all, and it's even more interesting to see the backside of the wall on the exit queue, because I never even realized that Gold Rusher is immediately to the left there when you're walking out, as perspective within a park is always changed quite a bit. Also, being able to see Crazanity, at least the top of the ride, before it's swinging all the way to the maximum height of the pendulum is odd for sure. And all of these stairs that would lead directly into the theater is just so bizarre to see as well. And this was only a handful of days after the permits were officially filed and accepted, so now I'm curious to see what trees are left. Well, as soon as we walk towards Full Throttle, the hillside that used to be absolutely covered in trees is barren, which, as the layout we saw in permits shows, it will be going directly next to the queue right there and all over that hilltop specifically. But man, it is so bizarre to see nearly every single tree around this area gone. Especially since this was a place that certain local wildlife really liked to reside. There were definitely a handful of times I remember being in line for Full Throttle and seeing a random raccoon or squirrel in the trees, and it feeling like an endless forest looking back. It was a really cool forced perspective thing for me, looking back into the woods and not knowing how deep it goes. Now, obviously, I knew Superman's walkway was just right there, but having all those trees in the way really made a difference. Now, though, you can look up that hill and go, oh, yeah, Superman's right there. Now, I would argue that is the biggest change, though, overall. All of the trees in every single space that this coaster is going to occupy, they're gone. As of now, there are just a handful of piles of the trunks and a barren hillside ready for a brand new roller coaster to start being put in. Genuinely though, I gotta say huge props to all of the people working on this project thus far. Don't get me wrong, I know it's a lot easier and quicker to take things down than build them up, but they've really shown the meaning of haste when it comes to taking all of these trees down, and they've done a really great job. So it'll be especially interesting to see what things are going to be looking like over the next couple of weeks and months, and I can't wait to finally make it back to the park again, hopefully in the near future, since you can officially have all Legacy Six Flags parks and Cedar Fair parks on one pass with an all-park passport. And honestly, more than anything, it would just be nice to be able to make it back to the park, because I actually haven't been in over 2 years now. But with that all said, I wanted to say thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you're just as excited for this project as I am. And a huge thanks goes out to Dylan from Theme Park Obsession. He really gave us some stunning views of the project, and he's got even more stunning views on his channel, so go check it out. But again, I want to say thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And until next time, we'll see you on the next ride.